going? Light over. Bad. What do you mean?
Yeah. Who's letting us in?
Me? Sure. Highlight people when they talk. Highlight people when they talk. Why is it not in there? Lower. Hello. You're muted.
Shalom, you spoke very beautifully today.
Oh, thank you. Whew!
Yeah, I agree.
Car died.
What's that?
Or my car died on the way home.
Oh, God. That's just not right.
It was not good.
How old is your car?
2008. Yeah, so I think it's might be time.
It's ready, either ready for an ending or a bar mitzvah, one of the two.
Yeah, it's not doing so well.
Wow. You bought it used though, right?
Yeah, Larry bought it for me 10 years ago.
It's that long ago. Okay.
Yeah, I gave Larry $10,000 and he bought me a car.
Wow. That's not bad.
He did a good job. Yeah, it worked fine. But I think if this one's going to cost a lot, probably won't do it. Where's Vicky?
It can't be worth more than a couple $1,000s at most.
No.
If that. Oh.
Yeah, they wanted someone from their family to be a co-host also for when we leave.
Okay, good. I think that's a great plan.
Yeah. I think they they said they want to hang out afterwards and schmooze. So we'll be able to leave in the middle.
There'll be a lot of people on the set. There's
Yeah.
like 250 people on that. Yeah.
Not really.
Mhm.
So Vicky is muted, but I hear her because she's obviously right next to you or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I have
At the kitchen
AirPods in,
table.
but I
Yeah.
muted them also because I can hear. It's never easy to do that.
Oh God.
Who do they? I don't remember. Well, maybe I'll let. Who am I letting in? I'm letting in.
But do you want to make me a
Did I do that already?
And are you recording already?
No, I am recording. Yeah. To figure out how to cut this off.
Anyway, Tom is right behind me. And then on the screen, if you look through it, you'll see Bart and Betty, who are up in Ipswich, Massachusetts, and my brother Mark and Carolyn, who are in Austin, and the 4 of them were unable to attend.
I gotcha. Okay. Do you want to?
Rabbi, you can also see if you look closely, my son, Ryan Slatko, is in Israel.
Oh, you can start this evening.
Okay, Jennifer, did you want to speak? Lisa's daughter Jennifer is going to share some of her feelings.
Can y'all hear me? Y'all can hear me? Yeah.
A little bit louder, if you can approach the microphone.
Okay, how about now?
Better.
Y'all hear me? Okay. Today we celebrate the life of my uncle Malcolm Slatko. Y'all knew him as the longest serving professional in the history of the Houston Jewish community, the CEO of 7 Acres for over 40 years. I knew him as Uncle Malcolm, and I still cannot imagine our family without him. I didn't want this day to go by without sharing my warmest memories of Malcolm. I will never forget him leading seders with my late grandfather's Haggadah, telling us funny stories about what it was like to grow up with my mom and Barbara, leading with pride as he told us about Lauren's journey to become Dr. Slatko, telling us his New York and Israel itineraries after his trips to visit Haman, bragging about his record collection while we played Nintendo at the Glen Meadow house, letting us go down that old water slide over and over and over, and laughing at me every single time I bothered him about how much he and Leslie should get dachshunds in. I used to tease him that the best things come in small packages. But when Malcolm put on his 7 Acres hat, he was the tallest man in the room. His life was dedicated to helping people, a true reflection of my grandmother and my late grandfather. When I would hear Malcolm's name, I always thought, that's my uncle. We were all proud of Malcolm's impact on the Jewish community and will continue to be proud of him in the future. Even though I know he will live on through us, the next generation of Slakers and Variety, this all still feels unreal. He left us too soon. As 97-year-old Bubby said, Bubby's right here, we will be strong because we've made up our minds to be strong. Life is worth living, and Malcolm changed the lives of hundreds of people throughout his 69 years, including mine.
Thank you.
I don't know, could Chaim hear me? Chaim, did you want to say something?
Yeah, you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah.
I just wanted to say that people said in the community that my father was a CEO, that he was the director of a nursing home, but really he just viewed himself as someone there to help people, to care for their parents, grandparents, to care for themselves, as just someone that's there to help them. And even though he had all these fancy titles, but he did it in a very modest way, just as someone there that is there to help people, help their family that can't help themselves and that they can't help.
Thank you, Chaim.
Beautiful.
Welcome, Mom.
Lisa, Malcolm's sister, is going to say something.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I just want to say from a very young age, Malcolm always had such a wonderful way with people. He was always so warm and friendly and caring and understanding of everyone and their situations. And it's no wonder what he went on to do with his life. And we all feel so blessed that we have been part of his journey and watching the work that he did for everyone. And we were always so honored that he was our brother and our uncle and our son. And, my mother, who is sitting with me, who's 97, who's just amazing, has such strength and resilience, and she taught all of us to be good, to try to be good to people, because that's how she and my dad were. And, you know, he's going to be terribly missed by so many people. Someone said to me that, you know, that Malcolm spent his whole life taking care of the elderly, but now he won't get to be elderly. And it's so true, and it's so sad to all of us. But we thank the community for all of your love and caring and the outpouring of support, and it's just been incredible. So we love y'all and thank you from all of us.
Also from Ipswich, I introduced Barton and Betty, Malcolm's brother and sister-in-law. Do y'all want to say anything?
Yes, we do. Mom, can you hear me okay? Can Mom hear me?
Yes.
Yes? Okay. Sounds like the dogs want to speak as well. So Malcolm's love of dogs seems to be coming through also. Malcolm and I were born in Palestine, Texas. And when I was 4 and he was 2, our family moved to Houston. And he, like my sister Alyssa, inherited my mom's outgoing personality. They were really the outgoing ones. I was the introverted science nerd. But from an early age, he was a charmer. He could have sold you the Brooklyn Bridge or the leg off a chair. And you all know about his devotion to helping the elderly at 7 Acres, his service to the community, his dedication to his family. From an early age, he was destined to be the one to help people, and he really geared his life to that. But as I mentioned, he's not just geared to the community, but our family as well. When I was very sick and hospitalized, he cut his vacation in Costa Rica short to fly up here in a snowy midwinter. And if my sister had a crisis, he was there for her as well. Even as a youngster, he was everyone's best friend. For every friend I had, he had 10. Folks just gravitated to him. He was an athlete, mostly for baseball and football, as he had my dad's wrestling build. I left home to go to college at the time he entered high school, and I don't know much about his high school days, except when I came home, he was either always out or always on the phone. And remember, this was before cell phones. And speaking of cell phones, he may have been the last of his generation to get one and use it and use email. To get him, I would have to call the house or call Leslie or his office at 7 Acres, where his executive assistant would patch me through. One Halloween when I was about 8 and he was about 6, Mom dressed us up as ghosts in sheets with the eye holes cut out. We had lots of friends in the neighborhood, and we traveled in a large group of ghosts, cowboys, baseball and football players, princesses, witches, and the like. When it was time to go home, we went in, and lo and behold, when we took our sheets off, I didn't bring Malcolm home, but I brought another similarly dressed smallish ghost, Peter. Mom and Dad were mad, but I took Peter home and got Malcolm, who was happily eating Halloween candy, and returned home. I thought it was a pretty fair trade, but Mom and Dad didn't. We had a ping pong table in the garage, and while dodging roaches, we kept score on the wall in pencil. And it was still there when Mom sold her house years ago. I recall we were pretty even, but I cannot guarantee he didn't add a few games on the wall with a pencil when I wasn't there. We shared a room into a new home until we moved to a new home when I was 13. We had matching teddy bears, and when we fought sometimes, somehow or another, the button eyes got ripped off and needed replacement on a fairly regular basis. We also had imaginary friends, and we made up mini games indoors to play. He always cared about how he looked in public, while at home, it was usually a shirt and baggy shorts. And when I visited, we'd sit in his man cave, jack up the 60 tunes on the stereo, and he and Leslie were avid 60s fans in music. We would tool around in his Z4 convertible, he with his New York Yankees hat, top down in the Houston summers with the AC and the 60s channel on full blast as we ran errands or went to lunch. And speaking of lunch, profits at Whataburger fell sharply when he passed away. He was their biggest fan for burgers and french fries. The first time I thought it strange to go to a fast food hamburger place, but when Texas Monthly ranked it as one of the #1 top burger places in Houston, they were right. Next time I'm there, I'll have one in his honor. I mentioned at the beginning that Malcolm could sell you the Brooklyn Bridge. Let me just tell you 2 stories. We worked for my dad on Sundays. He was a veterinarian, helping him clean out dog, cats, and cages. He was a veterinarian, and occasionally he would say, or Malcolm would say to me, "Your turn." And I'd say, "I did it last week." And he'd say, "No, he did." And then he would say, "Well, if you don't want to help Dad, then so I did." He was very manipulative and got away with it. Another story. We lived next door to Marcia Stein, and to swim in the pool, her dad made her or us clean it. And once again, I'd say, "Your turn." And he'd say, "He did it last. But if you don't want to swim, well," and so then I would do it. So he was, again, pretty manipulative, and he got what he wanted out of that in a fun sort of way. So I think one of his favorite tunes was Guy Clark's Desperados, Waiting for a Train. There's a photograph in their house with the lyrics on it. And I sent him a CD when Betty and I saw Lyle Lovett and Guy Clark sing it up here in Massachusetts. It's a wonderful but sad song about growing up and looking back. I wish he could have lived longer for us to do that, look back together. It's still hard to believe that he's passed away. We were growing closer, although the 1,500 miles from homes and busy lives kept us focused on other things. Too soon at 69. I miss him, and I miss what could have been. Thank you.
Thank you, Barton.
Mark, did you want to say anything? Can't hear you.
We knew a different Malcolm than most of you did. We knew very little about Malcolm's professional life, and it's been almost thrilling to see the community outpouring and hear all the things that he did that we weren't aware of. When Malcolm would come to visit, either here at our home in Horseshoe Bay, we always knew we had to set aside several days after Malcolm left to fix all the technology that Malcolm would break when he was here. He, as one of my kids said this afternoon or yesterday, Malcolm was the only person that could make my sister look like a technologist. For example, he believed that thermostats had 2 settings, on and off. And if he was hot, he would set it to 55. And if he was cold, he'd set it to 95. We saw his professional life on the periphery because Malcolm was never off of work. When he was here and the phone would ring and it would be 7 Acres or one of his board members calling, the thing I've likened it to over the last few days is it was like watching Clark Kent, who would rip off his tie and his shirt and become a completely different person in control. And it's nice to see the impact that he had. We'll miss him wandering around at 3 o'clock in the morning looking for cookies.
No.
We welcome, the family welcomes anyone else who would like to share a thought about Malcolm.
Well, I would. I'm Ricky Gerger, and the Gerger family and the Slatko family goes back for many, many years to the founding of Brish Shalom. And I'm not going to tell the story about how at probably age 5 or 6, Alan Gerger and Malcolm Slatko were declared official missing persons by the Sunday school teacher at Brish Shalom. This is when Brish Shalom was in a little house on Bellefontaine. And so the two mothers had to come to the house and decide whether to call the police or to search again and again and again. And eventually they walked into a room and heard some giggling in a closet. And that's how they found Malcolm and Alan, but I'm not going to tell that story. I'm going to tell I'm going to tell the story about how Malcolm affected our family so beautifully when my father died, and that was 23 years ago. There were a number of organizations that we wanted to work with for ways to honor him, to honor his memory. And some of these organizations were more helpful than others. Malcolm Slatko was such a mensch and found a little garden for us at 7 Acres to dedicate to my father, made a sign and put up. And he had a way to make us feel so happy that we were able to do this at 7 Acres. One of the other organizations gave us a pretty hard time. And so I was designated to speak with them when things got pretty dicey because I live in Washington. So I would never have to see these people, and I didn't want my mother and my brothers to feel a conflict with whoever these people were. So we worked it out. And I said to a person very high up in this organization, you would do your organization a world of good if you would call up Malcolm Slatko and have him come and talk to your board or your development committee or whoever, so that you all could learn how to graciously accept a gift of not insignificance. So I don't know if they ever did, but Malcolm just had a way to always make you feel that you were happy to be happy to be giving him money and happy to, help him succeed. 6 years ago when my mother died, Alan, I think, got a phone call from Malcolm. And he said, I'm going to add your mother's name to that sign at 7 Acres. It didn't occur to us to even think of that. But that's what a good friend he was, what a mensch he was. And just, Leslie and Flo and Lisa and Barton and Chaim and Lauren, the whole Gerger family is just so sorry for this loss. And I know that whenever we think of him, we'll be smiling because he was such a good friend and such a wonderful man.
The Wieners would like to share some words with the Slatko family. I did not grow up in Houston, but everybody knew Malcolm Slatko in the city. January of 2019, I was involved in a car accident in our driveway. I had to get pelvic surgery, and then we decided that we would go to 7 Acres for rehab. And I was there for 2 or 3 months. And my husband and my family had contacted Malcolm and said, we understand you have a rehab program and Leslie needs that. And what do we need to do? He says, don't worry, I'll take care of everything. So they bring me in the ambulance to 7 Acres, and they bring me in the room on a gurney, and they're putting me on the bed, and in walks Malcolm. And he says, Leslie, I don't want you to worry about anything. And you have here this gift bag with the balloons and the little teddy bear. And the chef is going to come in and talk to you today to ask whatever you like to eat. And my husband, of course, was with me. And we said, Malcolm, you know, we don't want anything special. We want just whatever everybody else gets. And he said, Leslie and Sandy, this is what I do for everybody. And he would come visit me sometimes in my room. And then when I was able to go on a wheelchair, I would go by his office and wave and say hello. And it was such a well-kept secret that 7 Acres had this phenomenal program for rehab, and the staff, the nurses, the therapists, they were phenomenal. And they were so well trained and just wonderful, wonderful people. And the other quick thing I wanted to say about Malcolm was watching him with his staff. He had a great sense of humor and always, always such a mensch.
Let me add a few things. First of all, Leslie and Malcolm each were very highly regarded in their fields, and they sort of covered the age span because Leslie is a well-renowned early childhood education teacher, and she got them at the early stage, and Malcolm got them toward the latter stage. Second is that in the story of Katrina, as I recall, there was like 70 or maybe it was 170 people in the Jewish home there. And Malcolm, because he had contacts throughout the Houston geriatric community, people who respected him, he was able to place every single person from the New Orleans home. He was able to save every single person. And I commented that Malcolm Slatko had saved more people from New Orleans than the President of the United States, the Governor of Louisiana, and the Mayor of New Orleans. The third is when Leslie's mother was at the Medallion, and it was not the right place for her. She needed a dementia facility. And at the time, the Alzheimer's unit was not ready. So Malcolm was not operative. Malcolm got on the phone and called a variety of different places to find exactly the right place for my mother-in-law. And it wasn't the kind of thing that one would have expected, but it's just, that's the kind of person Malcolm was. And finally, I attributed in no small part to his being a middle child with an older brother and a younger sister, which is exactly my situation.
And I must add, when my mother moved down from Dallas, living there 40 years, and she decided she would like to stay at the Medallion. She was there for a while. It was a wonderful place, but she got ill and had to go to the hospital for a week. And we were told that she really shouldn't go back to the Medallion because they would not have, it wouldn't fit what she needed. And they were so gracious, oh, come bring her back. So my sister came in from Washington, and I called Malcolm to ask his advice. In the middle of the day, he calls a meeting of all of his staff. And we sit down together and we explain the situation, and all of his staff give us all kinds of information. The new Alzheimer's section is just what she would needed, but it's so far advanced, it wasn't ready yet. So he got on the phone and he said, Leslie and Lorna, this is the place I'm going to recommend for your mom. You cannot just come out of the hospital and go to any nursing home. My sister and I went there that afternoon, signed her in. And one of the reasons it was so wonderful is that 95% of the staff there had been trained at 7 Acres. And I can't tell you how much that meant to us, because we were very, very close with my mom of blessed memory. And she was very happy there. And to the whole family, the last quick story, when I got the honor of bringing some meals over to Leslie and Malcolm and Lauren, I was outside the door and everything. And then as I'm getting ready to leave, Leslie said, "What? Oh, Leslie Weiner, Malcolm wants to come out and say hello." And then Leslie looked at him and says, "Malcolm, you can't go out there. You're in your underwear." So he didn't come out. Our love to you all.
Thank you.
I'd like to say something if I can. I'm Alan Fisherman, and what I'm very thankful, as is my entire family, both on Iris's side and my side, for having the whole Slatko family in Houston, be it being another member, Jewish member of the veterinary groups in Houston, to Malcolm being there for answering questions and helping with any needs that we needed for my aunt and uncle or for Iris's family. And we're very thankful for all that he has done. And oh, by the way, Barton, I was your friend before I was a friend of Malcolm's.
So I'd like to say something if I could. For those who don't know me, I'm Betty and Barton's daughter, Lynn. And one of the best stories I have of Malcolm was when I got to, we'd travel to Houston, and one of my favorite memories was having a sleepover at Uncle Malcolm and Leslie's house. And I have never felt so special as I did that day. I learned how to play Atari for the first time. And I don't know, for anyone who knows how to play Frogger, that was an amazing experience for me. I can still remember the oversized pillows that we had, and the popcorn that we made. And Leslie, I remember your jammies. And Malcolm just took so much time to teach me how to play that game. And just, I felt super special that day. And it was a memory that comes back to play many, many times throughout my life. And I'm so glad. Every time I see a big logging truck, I think of that story and that game. And I'm just, he was very special. And I'm really gonna miss him.
I'd like to express my condolences to the whole family. In my role, I'd like to just talk about a little bit more. Much has been said about the extraordinary Menschlichkeit of Malcolm. And in my role as a hospital chaplain, I have from time to time referred people to 7 Acres who are in need of rehab. And there was a particular occasion where I referred someone who needed rehab but didn't have the means to afford to pay. And this was someone who had served the community. And I reached out to Malcolm, and Malcolm made it possible for this person to receive the rehab that they needed. And he found donors to cover the cost of that rehab. I was absolutely amazed that someone in his capacity would be willing to talk to me and to be willing to reach out and find the support that was needed to help this vulnerable person get the help that they needed at 7 Acres.
I'd like to say something. My name's Patty Denenberg. I'm friends with Leslie, and I want to talk to Lauren and Chaim. And I just want to say the times, the Saturday nights and the times we would get together with your mom and dad, your dad was so proud of you guys. Lauren, he was so proud of what you were doing and all that you had accomplished, and looking forward to you going to Austin. And he talked about it a lot. And so I just wanted to say to you, so that you, and I know you know, but how proud he was, and Chaim, how proud he was of you and all that you guys have done, and what y'all did to him was just amazing. So he was such a happy, happy father. That's it.
This is Robert Cullick. If I could just add one thing. I'm not blood, I'm water. But I'm married to Susie Seraph, and Leslie's cousin. So I had great opportunity to, I had great opportunity from time to time just to touch base, and people have talked about Malcolm's charm. And I think part of the charm was he always found a way to meet you wherever you were and talk with you about what was important to you. There was a time in which I had a position of responsibility at our synagogue, and Malcolm was so generous with his wisdom about how to do things and how to get things done, that I benefited greatly from it. And when I hear the rabbi's words about remembering the things and paying forward those things that are part of Malcolm's life, that's what I remember, is how generous he was with his wisdom.
Leslie and family, this is Jerry Wishy. So I think I was in 1,000 meetings with Malcolm over 30 years. And the one thing about being a professional and being involved with other professionals is there's always a little bit of one-upmanship. Who had the best idea? Who had the best board? Who raised the most money? But hands down, Malcolm was always coming out on top. And we used to have monthly meetings of the executives. And since this is a really small Jewish community, there were only 4 of us. And it was Linda Berger, Malcolm, myself, and mostly Lee Wunsch, although there had been a change in the Federation several times during Malcolm's tenure and my tenure. And Malcolm, when we had the meetings, they were always at 7 Acres because Malcolm didn't want to leave the campus. So the rest of us were happy to leave our offices and come, and Malcolm would assemble us in the boardroom, and he'd worry about whether we were going to be satisfied with the lunch. And of course, you know, 7 Acres had a great reputation for not having the finest food. So once in a while we would want to order in. Malcolm said, no, this is the best food for any Jewish meeting in town. The most important thing I think I want to say is that Malcolm was fierce, he was creative, he was pushy, and he accomplished a lot. And for professionals, you have a lot of time to do busy work, but you don't have a lot of time to do creative work. And Malcolm has created a real legacy for services to seniors. I was fortunate that both my parents had the opportunity to be at 7 Acres in their latest years. And I know firsthand from the family side, as well as my professional partnership, that he's a rare, wonderful memory for me. So I hope everybody feels blessed to have known him.
Thank you, Jerry.
I would just like to, oh, go ahead. Oh, hi, I'm Yvonne Spillane. I'm Malcolm's second cousin, but I didn't really know Malcolm as well because he's quite a bit older than Lisa, and Lisa and I were always together from a very young age at their house. And I remember Malcolm's room, and Barton was 10 years older, so I knew him more when I got older. But I really want to just say how sorry I am for the loss, and to send kisses and hugs to everybody, especially to Flo. And Ronnie got to work with Malcolm on the board at 7 Acres, so he was very fortunate for that. But we're sending all of our love and best wishes to you guys, and to you, Leslie, and to the kids, and thinking about everybody. And Barton, I loved hearing your stories. You were not in the picture at all when I was with Lisa in her green shag rug. You were already gone, but I'm glad I've gotten to know you as we've all gotten older. Anyway, I send love and hugs to everybody, and we're very sorry for your loss. Malcolm was a hell of a man. I don't know how they're going to replace him at 7 Acres.
I would like to say something. I'm Fran Florsheimer, and I was very, very attached to Malcolm. I worked with him since he first started at 7 Acres, and I started around the same time. We developed a wonderful relationship, and his expectations of everything that we were supposed to be doing, he made sure we got it done. And there was frequent times where we had little disagreements, and we discussed it. And I remember saying to him, but Malcolm, you can't do it that way. You got to be a mensch. And he said, but Fran, and he stood up with his hands on the desk and says, I don't want to be a mensch. And we both laughed about that, but it always was a joke between us. I ran the old-timer unit, so we were very busy all the time and had lots of meetings and discussions. I would get calls at 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock. Fran, you got to come back to 7 Acres. This is happening, and they're not able to handle this. You got to see the family. You got to take. So I would be running back and forth. I loved my job. We got along wonderfully. During our time there, I was practicing to be a B'nai Mitzvah, and Malcolm knew this. And one time he called me down and he said, Fran, I want you down in my office right away. And I said, what did I do, Malcolm? He says, nothing, it's what you're going to do. Uh-oh. So I went down and he said, I want to hear you say the prayer before your B'nai Mitzvah. I said, are you kidding me? I don't have it in front of me. I don't know it by heart, and you're making me nervous. Well, he had it all ready for me, and I had to do the whole thing for him. And, you know, there were just little things like that. I was there 21 years. And when I was ready to leave, it was with a lot of trepidation. And Malcolm did everything in his power to change my mind. And so that didn't happen. But we were always very close. And in the years that followed, as much as last year, the year before that, I would get phone calls. Fran, I have a patient's family, you need to call them right now. And one time he did that, and I was just getting on the plane. We were going someplace. And I said, I can't do it now, Malcolm. I'm getting ready to go on the plane. He says, Fran, just get a pencil and write it down. I said, I'll call you when I land. And he says, why are you so difficult? So we had a lot of laughs together, and we were very close to each other. And the last time I saw Malcolm was last year at the gala, and we were all standing around, and whoever walked past me after he gave me a big hug, he said, you see, Fran, she left me. I never left her. And that was the last time I saw Malcolm, and he will be missed. And I certainly will never forget him and his family and how important he was to the Jewish community. He was a star. And Leslie, I am so sorry for your loss as well as your children's.
Thank you, Fran. Well, friends, we have tomorrow night as well. Iris, do you want to be the last one? Go ahead, Iris. Yeah.
I just, Al and I both have known Malcolm for a very long time. I knew him from BBYO and then became very good friends with Leslie in college. They've both been very important to us. And I just want to say to the family how very sorry I am, especially to Flo and to Leslie, to pay tribute to her for the caretaking that she has been giving Malcolm all these last several months. She has taken on so much, and I think he wanted her there and she wanted to be there every minute. And I love you, Leslie, and I just can't tell you how much I respect what all you have done.
So sweet. Thank you. We know how much Malcolm meant to his family. We're learning more and more how much he meant to individuals in this community and to the community at large. Just such a huge impact. Tomorrow night, we're going to meet again at 7 p.m. Daven Mariv and enable the recitation of the Mourner's Kaddish for the mourners and continue with our memories. First, on behalf of the family, I want to thank you for being here and for participating and for comforting the mourners. We'll see you tomorrow evening as we continue the memories. Leslie, anything to add?
All very much. See you tomorrow night.
Okay,
I
friends.
just want to say thank you to everybody who's been there for my family. It's really appreciated. Who's there to help Mom and Bubby and Lauren. Thank you.
Yes, she's surrounded by love.
Thank you, Rabbi.
Thank you, Rabbi Teller.
We'll see you soon. So sorry for your loss. I want to assign.